If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. Big Fish is a 2003 American fantasy drama film directed by Tim Burton, based on the 1998 novel of the same name by Daniel Wallace. The film stars Ewan McGregor, Albert Finney, Billy Crudup, Jessica Lange, Helena Bonham Carter, Alison Lohman, Robert Guillaume, Marion Cotillard, Steve Buscemi, and Danny DeVito. The film tells the story of a frustrated son who tries to distinguish the fact from fiction in the life of his father, a teller of tall tales. Screenwriter John August read a manuscript of the novel 6 months before it was published and convinced Columbia Pictures to acquire the rights. August began adapting the novel while producers negotiated with Steven Spielberg, who planned to direct after finishing Minority Report in 2002. Spielberg considered Jack Nicholson for the role of Edward Bloom, but eventually dropped from the project to focus on Catch Me If You Can. Tim Burton and Richard D. Zanuck took over after completing The Planet of the Apes, released in 2001, and brought Ewan McGregor and Albert Finney on board. The film's theme of reconciliation between a dying father and his son had special significance for Burton, as his father had died in 2000 and his mother in 2002, a month before he signed on to direct this film. Big Fish was shot on location in Alabama in a series of fairy tale vignettes invoking a tone of Southern Gothic fantasy. Big Fish premiered on December 4, 2003 at the Hammerstein Ballroom and was released in limited capacity on December 10, 2003 by Columbia Pictures, followed by a wide release on January 9, 2004. It garnered mostly positive reviews from critics and was an underwhelming box office success, grossing $122.9 million against a $70 million budget. The film received award nominations in multiple film categories, including 4 Golden Globe Award nominations, 7 nominations from the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, 2 Saturn Award nominations, and an Oscar and Grammy Award nomination for Danny Elfman's original score. The set for the town of Spectre still remains and can be found in Wetumpka, Alabama, at Jackson Lake Island. For the role of Edward Bloom, Burton also spoke with Jack Nicholson, as mentioned earlier, Spielberg's initial choice for the role. Burton had previously worked with Nicholson on Batman and Mars Attacks. In order to depict Nicholson as young Bloom, Burton intended to use a combination of computer-generated imagery and prosthetic makeup. The director then decided to cast around for the 2 actors in question. Jinx and Cohen, who were then working with Ewan McGregor on Down with Love, suggested that Burton cast both McGregor and Albert Finney for Edward. Burton later compared McGregor's acting style to a regular colleague Johnny Depp. Viewing Finney's performance in Tom Jones in 1963, Burton found him similar to McGregor, and coincidentally found a People magazine article comparing the two. McGregor, being Scottish, found it easier performing with a Southern American accent. It's much easier accent to do than a standard American accent because you can really hear it, he would later say. You can really sink your teeth into it. Standard American is much harder for me. It's much more lyrical. The same duo casting applied to the role of Bloom's wife, Sandra, who would be played by Jessica Lange and Alison Lohman. Burton commented that he was impressed with Lohman's performance in White Oleander in 2002. Burton's girlfriend, Helena Bonham Carter, was also cast in 2 roles. Her prosthetic makeup for the witch took 5 hours to apply. I was pregnant throughout the filming, so it was weird being a pregnant witch, the actress reflected. I had morning sickness, so all these fumes in the makeup and the rubber, it was hideous. Burton personalized the film with several cameos. While filming in Alabama, the crew tracked down Billy Redden, one of the original banjo players from Deliverance. Redden was working as a part owner of a restaurant in Clayton, Georgia, and he agreed to reprise his role in the Spectre vignette. As Edward Bloom first enters the town, Redden can be seen on the porch plucking a few notes from the dueling banjos. Burton was pleased with the result. If you're watching the film and don't recognize the solitary, enigmatic figure on the porch, that's fine, but if you do, well, it makes me so happy to see him, and I think other people will feel the same way. The soundtrack was composed by regular Burton collaborator Danny Elfman. Burton approached Pearl Jam during post-production to request an original song for the soundtrack and closing credits. After screening an early print of the film, Pearl Jam vocalist Eddie Vedder wrote Man of the Hour, completing the demo by the next day. It was recorded by the band 4 days later. Guitarist Mike McCready stated, "We were so blown away by the movie. Eddie and I were standing around talking about it afterwards, and we were teary-eyed. We were so emotionally charged and moved by the imagination and humanity that we felt because of this movie." Now this is an incredibly heartfelt, moving, touching, yet also fantastical piece of filmmaking here by the wonderful Tim Burton. This seems a much more sentimental and personal piece for Burton, who's usually much more in favour of dark Gothic pieces. One of the central themes in Big Fish is the power of storytelling and imagination. Here Edward Bloom is a natural-born storyteller who weaves elaborate and fantastical truths about his life. These stories are the source of both fascination and frustration for his son Will, played by Billy Crudup. The film for me suggests that storytelling serves as various purposes. It can entertain, inspire, and connect people. However, it of course also raises the questions about the line between reality and fiction, challenging the viewer to consider the importance of truth and authenticity in storytelling. The heart of the film here for me lies in the strained relationship between Edward and Will. Will is frustrated by his father's tendency to exaggerate and fictionalize his own life, feeling that he doesn't know the real man behind the stories. The movie explores the generational gap and the challenge of understanding and connecting with a parent whose life seems larger than life. The resolution of this theme comes as Will learns to appreciate his father's stories as a form of love and legacy rather than pure fabrication. Death is also a recurring theme in Big Fish. The film navigates the idea of mortality and how individuals are remembered after they're gone. Edward's stories become a way of him to immortalize himself in the memories of those around him. The movie encourages viewers to reflect on the concept of legacy and how individuals choose to be remembered. Edward's storytelling is a way for him to leave a lasting impression, not just on his family, but on the community and the world at large. I found the film also plays with the boundary between fantasy and reality. Edward's stories are often whimsical, magical, blurring the lines between what is true and what is imagined. This theme, of course, prompts the audience to consider the role of imagination in one's life. While it's essential to acknowledge reality, the film suggests that a touch of fantasy and wonder can also add richness and meaning to our lives. Edward's life is portrayed as a series of grand adventures, each one more extraordinary than the last. These adventures shape his character and provide him with a sort of sense of fulfillment. For me, the film prompts viewers to reflect the nature of fulfilling life. It suggests that life well lived is one filled with adventures, risks, and meaningful connections. It challenges the audience to consider what gives life its truest meaning. Look, this is a beautifully poignant exploration of storytelling, family dynamics, mortality, and the interplay between reality and fantasy. The acting in this piece is fantastic, from the likes, of course, of the wonderful Ewan McGregor and the late Albert Finney, to a poignant performance here by Crudup, Marion Cotillard, and of course the fantastic performances from Jessica Lange and her younger version, who's the splitting image of her, Alison Lohman. Even the additions here, of course, of Tim Burton favourites, Danny DeVito, Helena Bonham Carter, just add to this wonderful piece of whimsical narrative and heartfelt storytelling. This film invites viewers to reflect on the complexity of human relationships and the ways in which we shape and are shaped by our stories. With this beautiful direction, excellent storytelling, and superb performances here, Big Fish gets a 9 out of 10.